The rapid clatter of hoofbeats shattered the morning stillness as Olivia Hayes stumbled out of the stagecoach, her belongings tumbling into the dust of Abilene, Kansas. It was 1871, and the frontier town sprawled before her like a crude painting, raw, unfinished, yet somehow alive with possibility. Her auburn hair, hastily pinned after the long journey, threatened to escape its constraints, much like Olivia herself had escaped the suffocating confines of Boston society. "Miss, you dropping roots right here or planning on moving?" The stagecoach driver's impatient voice cut through her momentary daze. "My apologies," Olivia murmured, gathering her scattered bags. At 22, she had never imagined she would travel nearly 2,000 miles to become a schoolteacher in a place where cattle outnumbered people. The town of Abilene stretched before her, a single main street lined with wooden structures, some freshly painted, others weathered by prairie winds. The air carried the mingled scents of livestock, sawdust, and gunpowder, a far cry from the perfumed drawing rooms she had left behind. "You must be Miss Hayes," a stern-faced woman approached. "I'm Mrs. Tillerson, head of the town council. We've been expecting you." Olivia straightened her travel-worn dress. "Yes, madam. I'm grateful for the opportunity." "We'll see about that," Mrs. Tillerson replied, her eyes critical as they swept over Olivia. "The schoolhouse is this way. You'll have rooms in the back. Simple accommodations, but clean." As they walked, curious eyes followed them. Women paused in their errands to stare. Men tipped their hats with varying degrees of interest. Olivia felt like an exotic bird that had inadvertently flown into a barnyard. The schoolhouse was a modest building at the edge of town, but to Olivia's surprise, it was well constructed with large windows and fresh paint. Inside, neat rows of desks awaited the children who would soon be her responsibility. "Classes begin Monday. You have 4 days to prepare," Mrs. Tillerson stated. The previous teacher left some materials. "Good day, Miss Hayes." Alone in her new quarters, a small bedroom and sitting area behind the classroom, Olivia finally allowed her composure to crumble. She sank onto the narrow bed and let tears flow. What had she done? Trading the security of her family home for this dusty outpost had seemed brave in theory. Now it felt like madness. Yet beneath her fear lay determination. Her father's gambling debts had left the family destitute, her mother now dependent on the charity of relatives. This position was Olivia's chance to forge her own path, to prove she was more than a society ornament. She wiped her tears and began unpacking. By Sunday, Olivia had arranged her classroom, organized her lessons, and ventured into town several times for supplies. She had met a few friendly faces: Martha at the general store, elderly Dr. Wilkins, and the preacher's wife who had invited her to church services. The church was packed that morning. Olivia sat near the back, conscious of the glances directed her way. After the service, several families introduced themselves, parents of her future students, townspeople curious about the new schoolteacher. "Miss Hayes, we're delighted to have someone of your education join our community," Mrs. Carlton said, her 3 children hiding shyly behind her skirts. "Indeed," added another woman with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Though I do wonder what brings a Boston girl all the way to Kansas. Running from something, perhaps." Olivia felt heat rising in her cheeks. "Simply seeking adventure, madam, and the opportunity to contribute." Before the woman could respond, a commotion near the church doors drew everyone's attention. A tall man had entered, his presence commanding the room without effort. Broad-shouldered and sun-bronzed, he stood apart from the churchgoers in his practical attire, clean but distinctly that of a working cowboy. "Ladies," the preacher intervened. "Have you met Miss Hayes, our new schoolteacher?" The conversation reluctantly shifted back to Olivia, but her attention remained on the stranger. He stood at the back, speaking quietly with the sheriff, seemingly uninterested in the social proceedings. "Don't waste your curiosity on that one," whispered Mrs. Carlton, following Olivia's gaze. "That's Reed Thompson. Keeps to himself. Has a ranch north of town. Decent enough man, they say, but strange. Been here 2 years and hardly knows anyone." "Is he unfriendly?" Olivia asked, intrigued despite herself. "No, just different. Came from somewhere back east, rumor has it. Educated too, though you wouldn't know it to look at him now. My husband says he's fair in business, but he doesn't socialize. No one really knows him." As if sensing their discussion, Reed Thompson glanced their way. His eyes, startlingly blue against his tan skin, met Olivia's briefly. Something in that momentary connection made her breath catch. He nodded slightly, then turned and walked out. "See," Mrs. Carlton said. Peculiar. Olivia's first day of teaching was both exhausting and exhilarating. 27 children of various ages filled her classroom, some eager, others skeptical of the Eastern lady with her proper speech and refined manners. By week's end, she had begun to earn their respect. The younger ones warmed to her quickly, charmed by her animated reading of stories. The older students tested her knowledge, but found her well-prepared and fair. It was Friday afternoon when she saw Reed Thompson again. School had just dismissed, and she was standing on the steps, watching her students scatter toward home, when he rode up on a magnificent chestnut horse. "Miss Hayes," he said, removing his hat. Close up, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, evidence of years squinting against the sun. "Mr. Thompson," she replied, surprised he knew her name. Though in a town this size, everyone likely knew of her arrival. "Sheriff asked me to deliver this," he said, extending a package. "Books you ordered came in on yesterday's stage." He glanced at the setting sun. "Evening's coming. You should get inside." Before she could respond, he tipped his hat and rode away, leaving her puzzled by the brief interaction. The following weeks established Olivia's routine. Weekdays were dedicated to her students. Weekends involved lesson preparation and limited social engagements. Several young men from town had begun calling on her, the banker's son, a shopkeeper, and the deputy sheriff, but she found their company merely pleasant, nothing more. It was a brutal spring storm that altered her path. Rain pounded against the schoolhouse windows as she dismissed her students early, urging them to hurry home before the weather worsened. The last child had just left when thunder cracked overhead, followed by the sound of splintering wood. Rushing outside, Olivia found a massive branch had fallen, pinning young Billy Carson beneath it. The 10-year-old's face was white with pain. "Help!" she screamed, though the storm swallowed her voice. She struggled with the branch, but couldn't budge it. Then suddenly, someone was beside her, Reed Thompson, soaked to the skin, his horse snorting nervously nearby. "Move back," he ordered, and she obeyed instantly. With remarkable strength, he lifted the branch enough for Olivia to pull Billy free. The boy whimpered, his leg bent unnaturally. "It's broken," Reed said, his assessment clinical. "He needs the doctor. My ranch is closer than town, and this storm's getting worse." Without waiting for her response, he lifted Billy carefully. "Can you ride, Miss Hayes?" "Yes," she said, though it had been years. "Good. You'll take my horse. I'll walk alongside. But no time to argue. That leg needs setting, and we've got another storm cell coming." They traveled through torrential rain for nearly half an hour, Reed leading his horse while Olivia held Billy securely in front of her. The boy had fallen silent, which worried her more than his earlier cries. Reed's ranch appeared suddenly through the downpour, a substantial house of stone and timber with several outbuildings. A man ran from the barn as they approached. "Miguel," Reed called. "Get Doc Harrison. See, Patron." Olivia hadn't even realized she'd been injured until the doctor pointed out the gash on her arm, insisting on cleaning and bandaging it before he left. "The storm's not letting up," Reed said after the doctor departed. "You'll both have to stay the night. I've sent Miguel to town to inform Billy's parents and let them know he's safe." Exhaustion suddenly overwhelmed her. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along." "I was checking fence lines," he said simply. "Right place, right time." That evening revealed another side of Reed Thompson. He cooked a surprisingly good meal, maintained a proper distance that respected propriety, and spoke knowledgeably on topics from literature to politics. Olivia found herself sharing more about her life in Boston than she had with anyone in Abilene. "So the schoolteacher has secrets," he commented when she obliquely referenced her family's financial collapse. "Not secrets," she corrected. "Just private matters." "Fair enough." His smile transformed his face, softening the weathered lines. "We're all entitled to privacy, Miss Hayes." "Please, call me Olivia," she said impulsively. After today's adventures, formality seems unnecessary. "Olivia," he repeated, and something in his voice made her name sound different, special somehow. "Then I'm Reed." They checked on Billy throughout the night, taking turns sitting with him. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a washed, clean world. Billy's parents arrived with the sheriff, tearfully grateful to both Reed and Olivia. As she prepared to return to town, Reed brought out a gentle mare. "Borrow Daisy. She's steady and calm. Return her whenever it's convenient." "That's very generous," Olivia said, suddenly reluctant to leave. "I can't thank you enough for yesterday." "No thanks needed," he replied, but something had changed between them, a connection formed through crisis and cooperation. The following week brought whispers. Olivia noticed them immediately, the hushed conversations that stopped when she approached, the speculative glances from townswomen. "You spent the night at Thompson's ranch?" Martha finally asked directly when Olivia visited the store. "Billy Carson and I did, yes," Olivia clarified. "The boy was injured, and the doctor thought it best not to move him during the storm." Martha's expression remained skeptical. "People are talking, that's all. Thompson keeps to himself so much, folks wonder what he's hiding. And now I what?" Olivia's voice sharpened. "Assisted an injured child? Accepted shelter during a dangerous storm? Is that cause for gossip in Abilene?" Martha had the grace to look abashed. "You know how small towns are. People talk." The talk didn't diminish when Reed began appearing at school occasionally, ostensibly to see how Billy was recovering, but clearly seeking Olivia's company as well. He brought her books from his personal library, fresh vegetables from his garden, and once, wildflowers he'd gathered from the prairie. After several weeks, he invited her to Sunday dinner at his ranch. "She died of typhoid while I was at war." "I'm sorry," Olivia said, regretting her curiosity. "It was a long time ago," he replied. "And you?" "No suitor left behind in Boston." "Several possibilities, none that mattered," she admitted. "My father had arranged a match with a business partner's son, but when our fortune collapsed, the arrangement conveniently dissolved." By autumn, their connection was obvious to everyone. The town's reaction was mixed. Some approved of the positive changes in Reed, while others viewed their relationship with suspicion. "He's hiding something, Mrs. They're punishing you for associating with me," he said when he met her after school one day, his expression troubled. "They're being ridiculous," she insisted. "This will pass." But it didn't pass. Instead, the situation worsened when Thanksgiving approached and Reed invited Olivia to dinner again, this time with several of his ranch hands and their families as guests. The evening was wonderful: warm food, music, laughter. Miguel's wife taught Olivia to make tortillas, the children played games, and Reed read aloud from Dickens while everyone listened, enchanted by his expressive voice. "There's more," he said, capturing her hand in his. "I've fallen in love with you, Olivia Hayes. Completely, irrevocably in love. I've tried to be patient, to give you time, but I can't pretend this is just friendship anymore." The declaration hung between them in the crisp night air. Olivia felt a surge of joy so intense it almost frightened her. "I love you too," she whispered. "I have for months." His kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with a passion that left her breathless. When they finally parted, his eyes searched hers. "Are you sure? Loving me won't be easy." "The town? I don't care about the town," she said fiercely. "I care about you." The next morning, Olivia arrived at school to find Mrs. Tillerson waiting with two other board members. "Miss Hayes," Mrs. Tillerson began stiffly, "it has come to our attention that you were seen returning from Mr. Thompson's ranch at an inappropriate hour last night." Olivia straightened her shoulders. "Mr. Thompson and I attended a Thanksgiving dinner with his employees and their families. He escorted me home afterward, as any gentleman would. At midnight." Mrs. Tillerson's tone dripped disapproval. "Alone? We have standards in this community, Miss Hayes. We cannot have our children's teacher behaving scandalously." "There was nothing scandalous about it," Olivia insisted, though she felt her cheeks warm at the memory of Reed's kisses. "The board disagrees," said Mr. Fleming, clearing his throat uncomfortably. "We must ask for your resignation, effective immediately." Shock rendered her momentarily speechless. "You're dismissing me? For having dinner with a respected landowner?" "For showing poor judgment," Mrs. Tillerson corrected. "For associating intimately with a man about whom we know nothing. A stranger who appeared from nowhere, who keeps secrets, who treats people with kindness and fairness," Olivia interrupted. "Who saved Billy Carson's life, who helps neighbors without being asked, who reads Shakespeare and Dickens, and grows the finest tomatoes in Kansas. Yet you know nothing of his past, Mrs. Tillerson persisted. I know enough, Olivia retorted. I know his heart. The words hung in the air as the schoolroom door opened and Reed himself entered, followed by the sheriff. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. I've respected this town's privacy and expected the same courtesy. But since my past is apparently now everyone's concern, he pulled a folded document from his coat. Sheriff, would you read this, please? It's a letter from Governor Harvey, who attended the same college where I once taught. The sheriff took the paper, scanning it before reading aloud. The letter confirmed Reed's identity as a former professor, his honorable military service, and his complete exoneration from any wrongdoing in the financial matter at the college. It further commended his character and contributions to Kansas. Satisfied? Reed asked when the sheriff finished. Mrs. Tillerson appeared flustered but unyielding. This changes nothing about Miss Hayes' behavior. Spending time alone with an unmarried man. Then I'll rectify that as well, Reed interrupted. He turned to Olivia, his expression softening. I had planned something more romantic, but perhaps now is the perfect time. To everyone's astonishment, he dropped to one knee. Olivia Hayes, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife? The schoolroom fell silent. Olivia looked from Reed's earnest face to the shocked expressions of the board members, then back to the man she loved. Yes, she said clearly. Yes, I will. Reed rose and took her hand, facing the board members with quiet dignity. Now, unless there are objections to an engaged couple having dinner together, perhaps we can put this matter to rest. Sheriff Cooper couldn't suppress a grin. Congratulations to you both. Mrs. Tillerson, gentlemen, I believe this resolves any concerns about propriety. Mrs. Tillerson looked as though she'd bitten into something sour, but the other board members were already offering awkward congratulations. The gossip mill would churn with this news by nightfall. Later, alone in the schoolyard, Olivia confronted Reed. You didn't have to do that propose in front of everyone. I was planning to ask you anyway, he said, taking her hands. Though I admit, the timing was impulsive. They'll still talk, she warned. Let them, he said. They mocked you for loving a stranger, Olivia. But you knew better. His voice softened. You knew my heart before they ever bothered to learn my name. Then she knew my heart first, he repeated, drawing her close. And that's all that matters. Their wedding in early spring became the social event of the season. Even Mrs. Tillerson attended, though she maintained a dignified reserve. The schoolchildren presented Olivia with a handmade quilt as a wedding gift, each square representing something they had learned from her. Reed's ranch hands constructed in addition to the school a proper library filled with books from Reed's collection and new volumes ordered from back east. The sign above the door read, Hayes Thompson Library, a wedding gift from the town council. After much debate, Olivia continued teaching through the end of the term, then trained her replacement, a young woman from Topeka with impressive credentials. Though she would miss daily teaching, Olivia had new plans. With Reed's support, she established a scholarship fund for local students seeking higher education, particularly girls. Their first child, a son named William, arrived almost exactly a year after their wedding. He was born in the stone house that had become truly home, with Dr. Harrison attending and Martha from the general store assisting. When Reed placed their son in Olivia's arms, his eyes shone with wonder. He has your smile, he whispered, though the infant was doing nothing of the sort. And your stubbornness, she teased, exhausted but radiant. He took his time arriving. 2 years later, their daughter Elizabeth joined the family, followed by twins James and Sarah 3 years after that. The Thompson Ranch became known for its hospitality, its progressive farming methods, and its extensive library, which drew visitors from as far as Topeka. Reed eventually accepted a position on the school board, while Olivia established a women's literary society that gradually evolved into an unofficial academy for young women seeking education beyond grammar school. On their 10th anniversary, they hosted a celebration that brought together the entire community, including Mrs. Tillerson, who had grudgingly become one of their strongest supporters after Reed helped save her husband's business during the financial panic of '73. As sunset painted the prairie in gold, Olivia found Reed standing alone on the porch, watching their children play with the other youngsters. "Any regrets?" she asked, slipping her arm through his. He smiled down at her, the lines around his eyes deeper now, but still crinkling with warmth when he looked at her. "Only that I wasted 2 years in Abilene before finding the courage to speak to the beautiful schoolteacher. We found each other eventually," she reminded him, resting her head against his shoulder. "Yes, we did," he agreed, pressing a kiss to her temple. "And you taught me the most important lesson of all." "What's that?" "That sometimes the heart knows best." He turned to fully face her, his hands cradling her face with the same tenderness he'd shown that night 10 years ago. "You knew my heart when no one else bothered to look, Olivia, and I'll spend the rest of my days grateful for that." As the prairie wind carried the sounds of laughter and music from their celebration, Olivia Thompson stood in her husband's embrace and knew with absolute certainty that all the whispers, all the doubts, all the challenges had been worthwhile. She had found her true home not in Boston or even in Abilene, but in the heart of the man who had once been a stranger and now was the center of her world.